Conversations can be formal and structured with a specific agenda and outcome in mind. On the other hand, they can be informal and exploratory based on the underlying energy felt by those conversing. The latter could involve varied subjects such as friendship, family, work, travel, and all that is meaningful and precious. Why do connections matter to me? How can conversations help me forge rich connections? How has migrating across cities, countries, and cultures shaped me and my world? How do I constantly adapt? In all this, how do I keep things simple and joyful? To explore these subjects and more, here is a conversation with Pooja Popat, a self declared foodie and an avid traveler currently living in Melbourne, Australia. Relationships are a bedrock of my life, providing support, love, and shared experiences, she says. Her deep-rooted values of positivity, empathy, and adaptability helps her learn and evolve. Welcome, Pooja, to this conversation.
Thanks, Milind.
I remember a couple of weeks back, I think you were traveling to India. You came to Pune. You met us, me and Asha, at our home, which was your home for many years.
Yes, great connection. Yes, it was lovely to meet you both.
And, you and your mom both were there. And, we are so happy to be in a place. We moved into this house that we are living in now. We never realized it's almost 3 years now. You would have fond memories of this place where the same house you grew up.
That house is very special to me. And I've lived in many houses, but I think I've lived in that house the longest. It was sort of in like my teenage to formative years and all the way till I got married and moved to Australia. I was living in that house. So it's super special. There's lots of milestones in that house. And I was so glad to see you guys in it and how you guys have made it your special place. So yeah, thanks for welcoming me there.
And I always believe that place that one lives or inhabits has its own energy, and it kind of invites a certain set of people, maybe puts off certain sort of people, but then it's also a place where you make a lot of connections, with friends, family, and just 2 weeks back, a very dear friend of mine who lives in Bangalore, he was here in Pune. We've been wanting him to visit us and see our new house where we are living currently and stay with us. And he and his wife and his kids were over here. And he and I kind of go back almost 30, 40 years. He is into construction business. He's a pilot too. He flies in Bangalore. And over a drink on one of the evenings, we were talking about this whole idea of making connections, which kind of happens to us, over the years as we live our life. And, some connections stay, some connections wither away after some time. Some connections, I guess, are casual to start with, and probably they just vanish within no time. And again, as we move places, as we kind of for work or other reasons, I was born in Ahmedabad. I grew up in Mumbai. I did my education in Bangalore. Moved back to Mumbai where I worked much of my life, and now in Pune. I think making connections is something which is a very interesting theme, isn't it? I wonder how this has manifested for you.
Oh, absolutely. I totally agree. Like making connections is, I think of it like the reason for human existence. Like, you know, we're not designed to be solitary or, you know, live in isolation and things. Um, and like you're like a global, not a citizen of the world, I guess, like lived in many places and have connections everywhere. I feel like I'm very blessed and lucky to have connections in multiple places and have loved ones in multiple places. So you can say like I have many homes as well. So I was born in Bombay as well, Bombay at the time. And then we moved to Pune. But even within those two cities, we've lived in a few places. So we have like, you know, relations with a lot of people. So I went to school in Bombay and I still have friends from school. So same, again, it would be like a 30-year-old friendship. And it's just amazing how it stands the test of time. And still when I meet my school friends that I went to KG with and things, we just pick up from where we left off. Um, so they are still in Bombay and I live in Melbourne, Australia now. But every time I visit, you know, they make the time to come and see me, or, you know, when I'm in Bombay, I see them. Then moving on, I've had friends from my Pune school and then my Pune college, and then I moved to Sydney first, and then I have a amazing set of friends there. And now I've moved to Melbourne and we've got a whole new social circle here. So yeah, that's what you live for, I guess, you know, having connections and just being able to share life with people that you want.
And also, you know, I also I don't know, I can't put my finger on the real thing, but they say likes attract likes and otherwise
Mm.
too. So I have had friends who I resonate with a lot in terms of the like attracting like, but then I have quite a few which are the other thing, that they aren't what I am. I don't know. Connections do happen in both zones, I feel, isn't it?
Yeah, and I like my philosophy is like everyone comes in or everything happens also either for a reason or a season. So the time that you had your connection, it would have been for a reason. You know, either you stuck together, even if you've just done an assignment together, and
Yes.
then you find your either common similarities or differences, and then the relationship takes its own course. But yeah, it's yeah, and as you I've realized that as you grow older, you get to know yourself better. I think it just filters out people that are not a positive impact in your life. Like you need people who are your cheerleaders, and there's no negativity, and there's like, you know, a lot of great inspiration and ideas. So I guess it just naturally, you know, other people just go through that filter, and the people who you connect with stay on.
Yeah, and also, you know, connections, of course, once they thicken, they deepen, they widen,
Mm,
they remain over a period of time, tends to get into what we call as friendship. And I think all of us are
totally.
blessed with some amazing friends in life. And you know, as I was listening to, I think one of Michelle Obama's podcast conversation somewhere, that she talks about having something called your own personal kitchen cabinet. What she meant
Mm,
there was those friends whom you would want on your dining table, and
right. Yeah.
even if it is handful, it's worth having them, because as you said, very rarely, you know, they become your cheerleaders. Some even also, you know, show you the mirror, and are kind of what I would like to call brutally honest about
Mm,
having a authentic conversation. But you know, I've also found that many times, at least that has been my experience, that when I meet friends, and when those friends whom we go back many years, uh, and those again we are not very regularly in touch with. I mean, the bond is very strong, but then for various reasons, you know, we are not kind of every week, every month kind of a hello to each other. It's just like occasionally we meet once or twice a year, or maybe once or twice in 2 or 3 years. And invariably, I also find that the conversation with such friends tend to be around nostalgia, about the fun and the good times we have had together when we probably got together first, which is again a great thing. But I know the person that I am, sometimes I do get put off with, and it remains largely nostalgia.
Yeah, you'll have to strike. There'll be a good balance that you need to strike in situations like that. Um, yeah, feeling nostalgia is like such a great feeling. But yeah, if you're not feeling at the same wavelength at that time, it could get a little tricky, try to hold conversations or even have like further plans. So I don't know. I don't think I've got a lot of cases of the occasional friends. Yeah. And family is like that as well, right? Sometimes you meet family in many years and
Yes.
sometimes you don't have anything in common anymore. So yeah, I guess that's just the way we go with different people on different journeys and different paths.
And also, I've also often experienced this when the conversations are intense with old friends, which could be childhood friends or college friends or those whom we go back many years, is a feeling that happens to me, which is what happened with this friend of mine from Bangalore who was with us just about 2 weeks back, and he spent 2 days with us. Great time we had. We cooked together. We had loads of fun together. A feeling, a nagging feeling at the back of the mind that, yes, you and I go back many years, but I think I have moved on many paces. I am not the same person. I mean, of course, I am that, but then a lot has got added to me over the years. So I don't know, that also happens to me when I'm into some very intense conversation with some very close friends, where I see that a part of me that is conversing is the one which uh, goes back in time. But there is a stranger in me which is also struggling in that conversation, which is the one that has changed over the years.
I read a great quote about this. I might be butchering it when I say it. Like it's sometimes this feeling that I feel as well when I'm visiting places I grew up in, or coming back home. Like sometimes you feel all of that has changed, and sometimes feel all of that is exactly the same, but you have changed.
Yes.
And yeah, it's a very dual, like sworded thing, like dual bladed sword, I guess, whatever the saying is. Like you want it to be the same, and that's the beauty of nostalgia. Like that safe puri is exactly the way it used to be, and nothing's changed. And then you go back and you're like, but I have changed, and I want a little something different this time. So it could go both ways. But I was saying, don't get me wrong, I am not complaining. I still love safe puri.
But maybe a little bit meetha more this time, or a tikha more.
और बिस्लरी पानी में बनाओ.
But yes, it also happens with the cousins that you have grown up with. I mean, I grew up in a very large family in my childhood days, and my nana nani, they were in Baroda, and every summer I would go to Baroda from Mumbai, have fun time with my cousins from my mother's side, and then of course from my father's side too. And even when you connect with those cousins whom you had some amazing memories in the past, you do find that both of us have evolved over the years. I guess this whole theme of connections does have various shades. But I think, Pooja, you've said a little while ago, you've lived in Mumbai, you've lived in Pune, you migrated to Australia first in Sydney, and of course now currently living in Melbourne. What has these four places done to you, or what has it meant to you, if I were to ask you that?
It's such a great loaded question, but let's start from the beginning. So when I moved from Mumbai to Pune, that was in 1995, and Pune was not the same place as you know it now, right? It was
Correct.
quite like the second cousin of Bombay, and there was not much development and not even a lot of the same like shops or brands that you had in Bombay. Like I still remember we used to go back to Bombay to eat at, say, Pizza Hut or something like that. Like, there really wasn't anything. And there was not even the place where we lived, Milind, there wasn't even a sealed road. It was
Mm-hmm.
like a kacha road, and like zero shops. And now if you look at it, it's like, buzzing and booming, and there's no place left for any more shops. So it was a good lesson at that age for me to adapt to a new environment, something that you're not used to. From Mumbai, you were used to having everything at your fingertips or just at your doorstep, and now you've come to this place where like everything's far away and everybody goes to sleep between 1 to 4. At that point it seemed such a unique thing, and now I think that's such a great idea. Afternoon siesta is the best thing anyone can do for themselves. So I think Pune had it right from the beginning. Yeah, so it like in those years we're like, okay, there are new places, everybody operates differently. And again, like, because I was much younger, it was still okay to make friends, but it was the first time I was going to a new school. You're like, how is this going to go? And I came from a girls' school in Bombay, and I got into co-ed school here in Pune. So that was a big change as well. But it was great because I have made my best friends in the Pune school. My friend, she lives with me like in Melbourne now, and we've been friends for 28 years. So it worked out great. But at that point, it just felt a little daunting, a little uncertain. Turned out for better now. At that point, you were like wondering, like, wow, why did you make us move here? This is a small town. But yeah, now Pune is my most favorite place. So there's a good lesson when you look back in hindsight, and like, everything happens for a reason. There were like, the decision was made with a lot of factors in mind. And then obviously, like, I grew up there, had made all my friends, went to college there, started like exploring life really when you grow up and you start going out and even start working and things. And I've gone back to Bombay to work as well, actually. So I've
Mm-hmm.
been back and forth a bit. When I moved to Sydney, the first time I moved to Sydney, again, like, brand new world, never lived abroad, um, uh, didn't have like, the comfort or the like cocoon of a family,
Yes.
but also like didn't have daily comforts as well. You know how we're used to having help over here, you don't. So that also took a lot of adjusting, but like, we're living such a great life now, even though it's different, and one's not better than the other. They're just two different ways of living, and both of them are great. So after living in Sydney for a few years, my husband and I were just thinking about how to, just do something different. And COVID happened. So we were working from home so much, and we're like, okay, if we can work from anywhere, then let's try and go live in a new city.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why we just took the chance, thought, let's just do something for a change. Um, and like almost like a sea change. And we moved to Melbourne. And then you realize it's quite different, like as adults, to make friends. So you have to take that extra effort. You put yourself out there, go and experience new things like classes or like walks or hikes, and try and meet new people. Yeah, so it like every situation and every move has like taught me something about adaptation. and embracing that change, but also taught me stuff about myself, about what I like, what I don't like, and how I cope in, different situations like that.
But, in addition to migrating from one city to the other or from one country to another country, which is obviously for various reasons in life, for work, maybe some get married, for some other reasons people move. But in addition to migration, I think travel in general also helps us expose to a new world all the time, right? I mean, I know you are a travel buff, so am I. I mean, we've just Asha and I have just returned from an amazing 3 weeks in Scandinavia. We were in Denmark, Sweden, Norway, each of them so beautiful. And we purposely chose this time to stay in some rundown youth hostels, quite unlike our age.
That's quite brave.
Yes. I mean, we said let's experience a youth hostel stay, because I know Copenhagen, on Oslo, and some of those amazing cities are known for this kind of stay. So we picked such places and met some amazing, not only young but people of our age also, who chose to stay in a youth hostel, which has a large kitchen where you all cook together and all that stuff. I don't know. Travel also adds to who you are, isn't it?
For sure. Yeah, I feel like travel is such a great window into the world. Like, just go and get a little bit of an experience about other people's cultures and their food. Apart from travel, I'm a big foodie as well. It shows you what else there is out there in terms of experiences, nature. So yeah, I feel like travel, everyone must try and take some time to travel locally, domestically, internationally, whatever is possible for you at that time. It's quite a character building experience, I think, for yourself.
I mean, any of your travels where you recall of any experiences which kind of give you a glimpse of how people live there, say kind of a culture. I'll take an example here. I mean, many years back, Asha and I, we traveled to your part of the world, not Australia. We went to New Zealand, and we spent almost close to 4 5 weeks just driving around the country. And there was this unbelievable experience which has stayed in my mind, despite that being almost 15, 20 years old. We were somewhere way South Island, somewhere in the wilderness. We had rented a car, and we were driving around on an empty highway. That's how most traffic was in New Zealand those years. I presume it would not be very different now. It's such a beautiful, quaint country. And we found a small truck a little ahead of us who kind of slowed down. So we also slowed down and kept a distance, and he stopped after a while. And it was just a 2-lane highway, no dividers as such, because it was in the rural New Zealand. And we kind of stopped back maybe about 100 meters behind, just curious to see what he was up to. So he got down from his truck, took out some, there are these signs where you put on the road which stops the traffic. The ones on the yellow thing, like the triangle thing, yellow stuff. So he kept a few on one side of his car and on the other side of the car. So in a sense, he kind of blocked the highway. Of course, there were no cars coming from anywhere. We were the only ones. He got down from his truck, went off the highway, which was all farmland, and got a bunch of emus from that side of the road. Yeah, some maybe 10, 15 emus, big, full grown. He got them to cross the highway and took them on the other side of the highway, which was probably somewhere else. And I was like curious watching all this. And as he was kind of gathering that road dividing stuff back into the truck to clear the highway, I just went up to him and just introduced myself, said hello, and just kind of curiously asked him, what were you doing? He says, no, I have a farm which is on both sides of the highway, and I had to move my emus from one side to the other. I said, come on यार, हमारे हिंदुस्तान में तो ऐसा कुछ होता नहीं है, कोई रास्ता रोकता नहीं है, you just take your stuff from one side to the other side. But here there is somebody who just kind of takes care. He knows there's nobody around. He doesn't want to disturb people. He doesn't want to cause harm to his emus. But yeah, experiences like these do leave a certain image of a local culture, isn't it?
You said this. I don't know if you've read about, I haven't been there, but just about things that happen in different countries. In Australia, there's a place called Christmas Island. And there's this annual migration of the crabs that happen there. Have you heard of it?
No, go ahead.
There's crabs that migrate from the bushlands into the sea, or maybe the rivers. But you'll have to see pictures of it if you just Google it. It's a small island, and the whole island is taken over by crabs just walking on the roads, on top of bridges, through like footpaths, through like everything, because they're just trying to make their way from the bush into the sea.
Yes.
And it's an annual event on this island, and they shut down the roads. They have like protection, because like over here wildlife is so precious, and they do everything to take care of it. It just reminded me of emus crossing the road, that crabs also cross the roads and get from one place to the other. There are things like only in Australia kind of things. You'd see kangaroos on the beach, which we have, which is just boggles my mind still every time that I see it. But in terms of travel and experiencing how people live differently, my most recent travel was in Australia itself, another island just off the coast of Sydney. It's called Lord Howe Island, but it is quite remote, even though it's off the coast of Sydney, because it's a 2-hour flight from Sydney. And like nothing except ocean between the two places. And when you get there, there's only 300 people who live on that island, and only 400 tourists are allowed on that island at any time, because it's a UNESCO heritage place. I think it's got some protection around it, and it's really good for hikes and swimming and snorkeling and all of that. But all of us being used to living in cities and stuff for so long, everything's at your fingertips. Either you can order an Uber delivery, or supermarket click and collect or something like that. There is no supermarkets on this island, even though it's mainstream Australia. And when we were talking to the locals, and they're like, my groceries are going to come on the steamer ship next week. So it's such a long process, and they are so content living on that island and ordering groceries and waiting for a steamer ship to bring them groceries. And that steamer ship was so big, it could bring your groceries, which it did, but it could also bring a fridge if you ordered it. It could also bring a car if you ordered it.
So, Pooja, any other place that you have traveled to where something you distinctly observed of the way people live there, just like the one you just said now about this people living off the coast of Sydney, where they wait for the grocery to arrive from the mainland over a steamship or any other household good, which you said about how it gave you a beautiful picture of how people live a content life, so close to the Australian mainland, but so different from the mainland living.
Yeah, exactly that. And another example that really stuck with me is when we had traveled to Japan. It's such an awesome country, and the culture is so unique. There was this underlying assumption of politeness everywhere. And in the photos or in like the idea of Japan you see is that busy Shibuya crossing, and that's like one of the first impressions that you have of Japan. But even in that Shibuya crossing, there's so much chaos, but there's so much calm. And what stuck with us was in the bullet trains we were traveling, the ticket inspectors,
Yep.
they would come in and so politely ask you and check your ticket. And the bullet trains are long, right? So they would come into the compartment and bow, their usual polite Japanese sign of respect, and go through the whole compartment, and before leaving bow again and then leave the compartment. He's gone to the next compartment and done that same thing over and over again. And we're like, what is this place? Because it's so refreshing to see that kind of courtesy and respect. And it was across the whole country. Like anyone you ask for anything, nothing's too hard for anyone. They're like more than willing to help you out. Like at one point, like we had made a mistake and bought some wrong train tickets or something, and then we went and checked if we could refund it, and they were apologetic about having those tickets being all confused. So yeah, that was something that really stuck with us. Like on the train stations, people are like queuing up till the train comes, the doors open, they let people come in nicely, and then you just go in, and it's crowded, but there's such a beautiful system over there. So yeah, that sort of stuck with me, and it's quite a big lesson on respect.
I think Japan is one country which has kind of given us a lot of new words which have deep meanings to it. And one word I remember is ikigai.
A great concept, and yeah, a great concept to come out of Japan. And I feel like I have a sort of level of ikigai in my life as well. So it is basically trying to find, like, imagine a Venn diagram and trying to find the center sweet spot of what you love to do, and what you can be paid for as well at the same time. But is that what the world needs? And then the fourth thing is, are you good at it? So that concept sort of comes true in my current work environment. I work for a not-for-profit here at the charity organization, and in India I was working in the corporate world. So when I moved here, it was quite refreshing to start working for a charity that's doing more than profit-making work, and it's doing things to help people, and it's across any area of need, which is like either homelessness, domestic violence, drug and alcohol addiction. Like it could be anything that someone's going through, any hardship. So yeah, I find that that's something that I'm loving being a part of. It's quite fulfilling to know that you're making a difference, even though you're it's a desk job and you're sitting on your desk, but there are things that you're doing is impacting teams that are being there for people who need it at that point. And like right now, I think it's a global phenomena. Like the cost of living crisis is just hitting everyone. So yeah, right now we're seeing in our work as well that it's just the demand and the need for services and programs is really high. So it's busy, but it's going well. Adapting to this beautiful concept of ikigai here.
So have you found your own ikigai sweet spot?
I think so. Yeah, I love what I do. I get paid for it, as I'm not a volunteer. So I am employed, and even though it's like not comparable usually to corporate salaries and stuff, the fulfillment and the satisfaction that you get after that you're doing something that's good in the world, that is what the world needs. And
Absolutely. But you know what, you said something very important, especially in the times that we live, Pooja, which is this whole thing of cost of living today. Now, here in India, uh, which I'm sure it must be happening in Australia where you're living too, is in the recent years, if you look at 4 or 5 big items of personal expenditure for a typical family, I'm assuming that you don't have own your own house, so rent becomes number one element of your personal expenditure for the month. Food, for sure, fuel, medicines, and if you have kids, education. There's been an exponential rise over the last 4, 5, 6 years. I mean, blame it on inflation, etc., which, despite my little knowledge of economics, I'm not able to fathom this whole thing called inflation. But everybody says blame it on inflation, blame it on what's happening in the world. Fuel prices, Ukraine war, and now the Gaza war or whatever.
Yeah.
But I do meet a lot of people who say that, well, I don't enjoy what I'm doing, but at least it gets me some money in the bank. And we increasingly find that despite this whole idea of ikigai, which is to find your own sweet spot of what you love doing and you actually get to do it and get paid for, where you feel that you're making a meaningful contribution, these are, at least in the times that we live in, sound a bit esoteric for me. Good to have, great to have, but the daily mundaneness of life expects one to put one's head down and do the job, not because, you may hate doing what you're doing, but you got to put food on the table. You got to have a shelter above you. You got to look after your kids.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I mean, I find it difficult. I get pulled in many directions. Fortunately, I'm at a place in life where I am not too consumed with this as an everyday experience, but it does hit me as well. That I'm not sure whether the investments that I have made will give me enough returns to meet the kind of lifestyle that I have in the coming years. So economic issues are so overbearing, isn't it? I mean, how is it playing out in Australia where you're living, and how is it, if I could ask you, affecting you personally, if at all?
Yeah, yeah, it is a global phenomenon. Everyone's feeling it. Australia as well. I think our inflation rate has been like highest of all times. Uh, Everything like groceries has gone up so much. Like you can't come back with a lot of change even if you're just trying to buy milk and bread, you know. But there are charities like ours that help people, those who are in need as well. Fuel again is just costing so much, and it's changing the way I think people are um, living. So there's budgeting going on, and like trying to find bargains, and moving to different brands to just cope with having that item in your shopping basket, but doing another brand that you're not usually loyal to and stuff. So you'll have to find ways to work through it, but I know that for some people it's really difficult, especially like families and things like that. So yeah, that's why it's really important, I guess, to have um, charities like ours who are in place, so that we're able to help people who really can't do it on their own.
But I think, if I were to look at it from another perspective, I also feel that the times that we live in seems to also invite us to differentiate our needs and the wants. For example, we all went through the extremely difficult phase of COVID worldwide. I'm sure you would have also gone through it
Yes.
wherever you were,
Yes.
and everybody in the world, which I don't know, probably was a wake up call, in my view, to mankind, saying that As consumers, can we put a lens on what I am consuming and ask a very simple question every time I put anything into the shopping cart and press the checkout button? Is this really what I want?
Mm.
And I don't know, somehow I feel that Mother Nature is asking us to look at the way we are living.
Yeah, I agree. And I feel like there were lots of good lessons learned during COVID as well. There were, yeah, these realizations and this awareness was one of the silver linings of it. But I also feel like we're slipping right back into normal stuff. Like COVID's like seeming like a thing of the past now. And yeah, it's just going back to normal. Like everyone's traveling again, everyone's like out and about, no restrictions and stuff. So it's almost like a bad phase that you just want to put behind you and then go back to normal, which was pre-COVID. Yeah.
Yeah, and in the midst of all this, you're absolutely right. I mean, people have forgotten COVID as a bad dream and going about living their life with vengeance, saying that in those 2 years, I was hunkered down. Now I'm going to spend like as if there's no tomorrow, etc., etc.,
Yeah,
etc.
it's like revenge.
Yeah, revenge. But then one of the things when I look at somebody like you, Pooja, who's born at a place, grown up in another place, moved to a third place, and now living in a fourth place. And I wouldn't be surprised, given the age and stage of life that you are in, you may probably move a couple of places more. Uh, you know, we don't know what's in store for all of us. But then a question that always remains with me is this question called, where is home?
Yeah. Like I said in the beginning as well, I really live by this. I'm lucky to have multiple homes. So you know how by default, sometimes when I'm talking about um, home, I just be referring to home as Pune. But and then sometimes I say home and I actually mean Bombay. And then sometimes I say home and like I'm referring or thinking of Sydney. So I feel like I belong in all these places. There's a part of me in all these places because those places have become a part of me and like have made me who I am. Um, and that's just the richness of knowing and loving people in like multiple locations, I guess. Yeah, you feel like you belong in multiple places.
So if I were to invite you to give an image or a
Mm,
picture or a metaphor or a symbol
mm,
to Pooja in Mumbai, Pooja in Pune, Pooja in Sydney, and Pooja in Melbourne, and Pooja wherever she would be a couple of years down the line. Let's say 5 images
yeah.
or 5 pictures or 5 symbols. What would they be?
I can, when you said similar, like you can just narrow it down to one. It will be me surrounded by the people I love. There'll be food and it'll be near a water body. So it could be like a beach somewhere, it could be a lake, but like that's home to me, like just things that I love in the same place.
And if I were to, extend this argument and say the world that you belong to today, when you look around, whether look around in your neighborhood, across the street, within the city, or through the television, what's happening in the world at large, what is it that you see?
I see there is a little bit of chaos and a lot of bad news, but there is also hope and um, there are people also trying to do the right thing. So I'm a I feel positive about uh, there being hope and this not being um, sort of the ultimate bad news story.
And is there any desire or any goal or any aim that you have for yourself to be a part of that hope in terms of your own contribution?
Yeah. Yeah, I'm nothing solid or whatever. I just think like by just living a life that's, sort of sustainable and not like damaging to the environment, the economy, to just relationships. Yeah, I just like there's like this whole, I don't know if it's everywhere, but there's a new brand called Be Kind, and kindness is sort of the new superpower for everyone. So I might sound a little preachy, but yeah, it's just like kindness, really.
Can you elaborate on that?
Um, Small example, like literally small example. I was um in traffic yesterday, and I was getting late for an appointment, and I had to just like ask the car driver. I was in traffic. I was driving, and I was at the lights, and I had to just ask the person in the lane next to me to let me cut through so that I can reach where I needed to, because otherwise I'd have missed a turn and stuff. And I literally had to just look out of my window and no words or anything, just like expressions, like with a smile and a little gesture of my hand requesting, can I cut through? And the girl in the car behind me, you just gave me a thumbs up and said, sure. And that made my evening. It was such a small thing, but it made my evening because I reached for my appointment on time. It just made me smile. Like, if she was in a bad mood, she could have just said no. And, there's aggressive drivers on the road who are like road rage and like, no way are you cutting in front of me or whatever. But yeah, that's all it took, like for me to just ask politely and for her to say, sure, doesn't make a big difference to my day today. So she let me cut through. So you're just like small things like that, courtesy, respect, politeness, kindness.
So beautifully said, Pooja, because I think, yes, I resonate with what you've just said is, day in and day out, I do experience in my life, in the various roles that I play at work or social roles or otherwise, and interaction with people. Uh, I do see a lot of simmering anger amongst everybody for various things. And I think the anger comes from a sense of helplessness, of inability to change things and accept a world which is not of your liking. And the coping mechanism seems to be these emotional outbursts that happen. And it's kind of a downward spiral all the time, each one doing this to the other. And this little act of kindness, a little smile, a little gesture, a little nod to a stranger on the road, whatever time of the day, with a smile. I guess those are small things which I think we are so much in control of, isn't it? And rather than feeling helpless about unable to make changes, because it's too big an ask, we are not capable, we don't have the skill set, we don't have the motivation, we don't have the energy. But I guess a little smile to somebody who we see across the road is good enough, isn't it?
Absolutely. And like, how the old saying says, like, be the change you want to see, and then change starts at home, all of that stuff. Like even within the household, and, within your workplaces or whatever community you're a part of, is just little acts like that. And it just multiplies and it's got ripple effects. And I'm sure it'll show up positively somewhere.
So Pooja, this has been such a flowing conversation, if I can say so, like a small stream of water, originating somewhere in the hills and going its own way wherever, which is how I felt this conversation to be. If I were to ask you just two things, at this age and stage of your life where you are right now in, what is it that Pooja is saying to herself?
I'm saying be open And I'm saying YOLO. Even though I might not be of that age, I'm just saying you only live once. So just be open to new experiences and say yes wherever you can.
Absolutely. I like what you've just said. Say yes. And say yes with a nice, beautiful
Exactly.
smile, which is what you're having just now as we are talking. So, Pooja, thank
Yeah,
you
I
very
really
much
enjoyed it.
for this. Just want to quickly hear from you. Where has this conversation left? What has it left you with?
Yeah, I really enjoyed it. And it's like it was nice retrospective, like to just think back on things and yeah, hear your snippets from your journey as well. So yeah, thanks for chatting.
And look forward to meeting you again somewhere, sometime.
Absolutely. Come over to Melbourne.
Wonderful. Yeah, that's one part of the world we haven't been. But yes, whenever we plan, we'll definitely consult you. And Australian wines is something which I have only tasted once, but I look forward to having it again.
Oh, yes, for sure. There'll be plenty.
Great. Okay, bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you for your time today, my dear listeners. This is your host, Milind Agnihotri, signing off. Goodbye, take care, and stay safe. This podcast is for general information purposes only and should not be considered as a piece of any professional advice. Views and opinions expressed in this podcast are those of its guest. Creators of this podcast expressly disclaim any and all liability or responsibility for any direct or indirect, consequential, or other damages arising out of any individual's use of this podcast. For feedback and suggestions, please write to wingsindia75@gmail.com. Thank you.